Hello and welcome to this video from BindTuning. In the age of information technology, every organization uses and handles digital documents. Over the years, these documents, files and folders start to pile up. Hence, it is of utmost importance that a document database is maintained, organized and properly systematized. The goal is to empower employees to save time and effort while searching for the much-needed information inside the database. One of the most critical scenarios in many organizations is managing documentation that is specific to different vendors. For example, price books, quotes, offering presentations, etc. By combining BindTuning filters and BindTuning documents, you can create a filtered vendor directory, linking to vendor-specific pages in which you can display vendor-specific information. We highly recommend that you check out our BindTuning filters article. In this case, you can replicate what is done in the Filter Employees by Skills article, but instead of the filter being about employees, it is about vendors. And you filter the vendors based on their vendor-specific information, be it the kind of vendor, the type of vendor, the service provided, the products, and other important information. So let's begin. So here I created a vendors directory filter. This is a filters web part by BindTuning, and it has a template list and a content list, just as mentioned in the filters article. In this case, you can add custom columns to the content list with all the information that you need about each vendor. So for example, here I have a title column for each vendor. This is a column of the type choice about the product or service that this vendor provides. Obviously, these are imaginary and they're supposed to be in the food industry. And of course, I added a contact person, the name of this person from this vendor, their email, phone. I added a column for the contract start date and the rating, the country to which this vendor belongs, and also a vendor type column. Last but not least, a company logo. So here you see each logo. These are icons. And also, finally, a column that is called vendor pages. In this case, I created a page for each vendor. Right here, you create a page and then you copy the link to that page into this column. Right, now that we have the vendor page column configured, we would like to link each item of the filter to its vendor page. To do that, we have to click on the button in the middle that's called Manage Templates, and then on the pencil icon. And now we have to type in vendors pages in curly brackets. Note that you can open the vendors page in a new window, the same window, or a model. Then you hit save. And there you have it. Now each vendor's page is linked to the filter items. Now it's time to populate each vendor's page. For this vendor, we will be displaying documents specific to this vendor in the BindTuning documents part. You can also use different BindTuning web parts to organize relevant information. For example, an image gallery to display pictures for events or products and services offered by this vendor. You can use the alerts to notify your team of new updates or actions needed in relation to this supplier. Also, you can use the accordion to organize frequently asked questions in relation to their products or services. To display vendor-specific documentation in each vendor page, you have to create a document library. You can do that by going to Site Contents, and clicking on New, and then you have Document Library. You can create one document library for each vendor, or even you can use one single document library for all vendor documents and use target folders or views to organize data. In this case, I previously created a vendor document library, this one right here, and it has a folder for each vendor. So we want to display these documents in the Documents web part on this vendor's page. We click on Edit, and then we click on the Documents web part, on the pencil icon, Edit web part, and then Document Source. Click on Add List, and right here we have to type in, or we can even copy this from the site collections URL. This is literally just --sites the name of the site collection. You copy it directly from the site collections URL. Then you paste, click on the arrow, and then we have to look for our document library that we created previously with a folder for each vendor. In this case, it's Vendor Document Library. Then click on the floppy disk icon and hit Save. And there it is. All the folders are displayed in this web part. Please note that in this video we will use one single document library for all vendor documentation and walk you through two alternative configurations of the BindTuning Documents web part. The first option will be to group documents in folders, as it is right now, and use BindTuning Documents target folder features. The second option is to leverage SharePoint list views and use these to filter content being displayed in each web part. This second option is most recommended. Alright, so for option 1, the target folder feature, we created one document library and within it one folder for each vendor. Then we added the BindTuning Documents web part to each vendor's page, and we linked the web part to the same document library. For each individual documents web part in each individual vendor page, we will edit the page. Now click on the Documents web part on the pencil icon again, and now we click on Document Source. Now we have the folder options, Target Folder. And in this field, we will type in the name of the specific vendor that we want to display in the page. In this case, it's the Wheat Co. Documents. And then we will hit Save, and this will only display the documents inside the folder for this specific vendor. Disclaimer: in this method, all the documents for each vendor must be in one folder only. If you have folders inside a folder, they won't appear. The target folder feature only allows to display files, not folders within folders, and only content from one folder at a time. Alright, now option 2 is to leverage SharePoint list views and use these to filter content being displayed in each web part. So now, for example, let's go to this vendors page. I have already added the documents web part to it, and now we will edit the page and link the documents web part to the document library. So I will again copy the part of the site's URL, and then I will choose vendor documents library. Hit the floppy disk icon, and then hit save. As you can see, with this option, the second option of the SharePoint list views, we can display both files and folders. Alright, so now to differentiate which document belongs to a certain vendor, we will go to the document library by clicking on this button. Vendor Documents Library, here it is. And we will create a new column of the type choice, for example, and we will call it vendor name. In this case, we only have folders and files relative to only 2 vendors, but obviously in a real case it will be all the vendors. But right now we will have only 2 choices, so it will be the Fruity and the Wheat Co. Alright, and then we hit save, and here it is. So now we edit, and for example, this document is the Fruity. Okay, we will choose relative to the vendor. Again, this one is Wheat Co. Again, Wheat, Fruity, Wheat, and so on. Alright, so now we exit the grid view, and here we have the column with the vendor's name relative to each document. Now we click on this arrow and we hit filter by, and now, for example, we will check Fruity Co. and apply. This will only show us the documents that are relative to this vendor. So now we click on this part that says all documents, and we will hit save you as, and here we will call it Fruity Co. and then hit save. Great. Now we can go back here and let's edit the page again. Click on the documents web part, click on the pencil icon again, manage documents, and then here we have the vendor documents library. We will hit on the pencil icon and we will look at filtering options. If you click it, we will have different options: no filters, camel query, all documents, etc. And here we have the Fruity Co. This is the list view that we just created previously. So we click on it, hit the floppy disk, and then hit save. So now we only have the files and folders relative to this vendor. It's easy as that. Hopefully by now your vendors directory filter web part and documents web part are functioning properly. and you have all your vendors' pages populated with the right folders and files for each vendor. With both options, you will be able to link different instances of BindTuning documents web parts to a single document library, making its configuration easier and more sustainable in the long run. Please stay tuned for more videos of this series.